I really wanted to do something positive when it comes to gaming because my last few videos have been a little doom and gloom. So I decided I would scour the internet, look into all different areas of gaming to try to find something nice to come and say, something hopeful. Unfortunately, all of my findings have only proven that it's somehow gotten worse. Welcome back, everyone. We are here today to talk about the state of gaming, and unfortunately, it's not looking good. And we're going to talk about all the different areas and why I feel this way, and what is the silver lining here? What can we do? Because, I always want to leave you with something hopeful, even when the news is bad. So stay tuned for that. But before we get into it, I want to know, how do you game? Do you game on your PC? Do you game on a console? Do you game on your phone? Are you a handheld gamer? Where are you gaming? Are you maybe a board gamer? All games are valid here. You can game anywhere you want. And so let's talk about where we're at and how that is being threatened by the current state of everything. First off, I want to talk about PC, because PC, I have always said, is the surefire winner for me in the future of gaming. I think PC gaming is one of the best ways to game out there for those that can afford to have a PC. It is expensive, or build their own PC, which also is expensive. And right now, these things are very expensive because of parts. I mean, when you build your own PC, usually you would do that for it to be more affordable. And at this point in time, I think pre-builds actually are more affordable, which is kind of wild. But that is because right now, parts are more expensive. And this is not just about things that are going into your computer. I have even just bought an external hard drive. I need external hard drives all the time for all of the content I make, to back everything up, to store it. And the hard drive that I just bought to put some stuff on, I bought one a few months ago for my editor. That one was $160 with tax, Canadian. The one that I just bought, same model, same type, over $200. And I bought that one in June. And that's with tax, Canadian. So we've seen about a 30% increase in just hard drives alone, external hard drives, from March to June. What? And of course, a huge part of this is because of AI data centers. And I know a lot of people have been talking about it. Charlie, Moist Critical, has been talking about it. And I have to talk about it too. AI data centers are buying up all of the things that we need to have our PCs, to do our gaming, and buying up components also from the gaming industry in general for people that are trying to make consoles, make hardware, and it's making it very unsustainable for people to buy these parts. There's also, of course, the fact that components that you use in pieces are actually going up, in part because of stressors from things that are happening in the world at large, and also just because the cost of materials is going up. But I feel like that also has to do with the stressors that I'm alluding to. Granted, when it comes to recent hardware for PCs, there is one area that we really need to talk about, one place in particular, and that, of course, is Steam. Steam recently came out with their new Steam controller, and this was huge. A lot of people were praising it and saying it was amazing. And sure, it is an expensive controller. However, the reviews were absolutely glowing. And I even wanted to get one, but I couldn't because they sold out so fast, because also scalpers are an issue in the gaming industry. Now, when it comes to the Steam machine, which followed the controller, unfortunately, Steam did not have as much of a winner on their hands. The initial price point that was estimated for the Steam machine was about $700 USD. That's what a lot of people were saying it was going to cost based on the specs, and the predictions, unfortunately, were wrong. The predictions were way off because the budget had to be inflated due to increasing costs for components in the Steam machine. So even though it's not the most cutting edge, it still ended up being $1,049 USD at launch. And I mean, Steam did try to, I think, use some older stuff in it to help bring the cost down. So that's them trying to bring the cost down, and it's still over 1,000 USD, which basically means I don't think I'll be getting a Steam machine because I can't afford that, even though it's my job. I'm being priced out of things that are part of my job. It's crazy. And of course, the 1,049 USD for the Steam machine is the base model cost. So that is 512 gigabytes. We're not even talking about a full terabyte of storage on there. That's pretty crazy when you consider that when I was gifted my Steam Deck by a little poet boy in my community, thank you again for the Steam Deck, we actually got that gifted to me at a time before the price went crazy, before there was all of this demand and the parts for everything were going to be going up, because I think that was around 600 USD, and mine is the 512 gigabyte, I believe, model. So just to give you an idea of how much the price has really inflated. And the other sad news about the Steam machine launch is that at launch, the hardware was kind of faulty. People were sharing stories where they were having what we would maybe call the red line of death, like a flat line, as opposed to the red ring on Xbox, where their consoles would brick up. And some people I saw online were also complaining that they couldn't even boot up their console. It just wouldn't start, which is a huge problem. Now, granted, they did, I believe, soon after release a patch and updates that fixed a lot of these issues. However, the fact that you're spending that much at launch to get the machine, and then for that to be your first experience, still left a sour taste in a lot of people's mouths. And understandably, when you're spending that much, you're expecting the hardware is going to run pretty smooth. Unfortunately, no. And that's not where the price hikes end. We can move over to Xbox now. Let's talk about everything that's going on at Xbox. More price hikes. We just recently upped the price of the Xbox Series X and S again, which has already happened multiple times, but it went up again. And of course, like I said, this isn't even really Steam or Xbox's fault, because the components cost so much, they have to up the price, which sucks. I'm sure they don't even want to be doing it. But also, talking about Xbox, well, maybe the price change I can understand a little bit. I can't fully let them off the hook here, because we talked about this in another video, which if you haven't seen it and you want to hear my full thoughts on the studios being shut down, you can hear that over here. But Xbox has also been closing a bunch of gaming studios. Now, granted, they are giving some people the opportunity to buy their studios back to go independent, and that is going to be dependent on a case-by-case basis of what people can afford to do, I'm sure. But Xbox can no longer afford to bankroll all these studios, which I understand. There have been some poor decisions made in the past, and now they're having to pay for that. However, the unfortunate side effect of closing down studios, and even people having to buy back their studios and go independent, is that we are going to be losing many people in the industry. There's going to be so many people that are laid off. In fact, it's already begun. Xbox has been firing people left and right, and even studios like id, which are known for being successful. We're talking Wolfenstein, we're talking Doom. They recently had their release for Doom Dark Ages, the DLC that just came out, and that coincided with them laying off a ton of people. So on the same day that some people are mourning the loss of their job, the studio is celebrating a successful release of this DLC, which is, I've heard, amazing. That's so messed up. And apparently it was a really big percent of the studio that got cut as well. I don't have the exact number, but I'd just like to say, if you're playing that DLC and you're watching the credits roll on Doom the Dark Ages, maybe consider that 1 in 3 of those people may be left at that studio. That might be all we have. That's tragic. And when it comes to Xbox, we're seeing layoffs across the board. Xbox recently said about 3,200 roles would be removed, and this week alone, we've seen 1,600 removed. So we're not even halfway, and already people are saying this is some of the worst layoffs we have ever seen in the gaming industry. It is a legendary status of bad news. And I wish that I could take you over to Sony. I got the blue in the background for Sony here, and I could give you some good news. That there would be something I could say. However, after Sony promising to go back to being all exclusive, to the point that even if you wait a few years, we're not going to see Wolverine coming to PC at all. It's going to be a fully exclusive title, and that's what Sony wants to do with their games in the future. They have decided to double down on that even more. And instead of it just being all exclusive, we're also going to be getting rid of physical media. So what does owning a game even mean in 2026 and beyond? I think it really means nothing at this point. And this is a huge issue, by the way. If you think physical media, this is the way it was trending, and maybe you buy a lot of stuff digitally. I mean, I buy a lot of stuff digitally, to be honest. I own a lot of physical media, and I buy a lot of physical media, but I also have a ton of digital media as well. So you might be thinking to yourself, well, I'm kind of pro-digital, or that's kind of just the way it's going. So what's the big deal? The big deal is this is a monopolization of the market. So when we remove physical media, we also remove the people that we buy it from that are kind of the in-betweeners in the industry. Sony's making the games. Stores are purchasing those games to sell themselves. And that's also where we see a fluctuation in cost at times. You know, stores have sales and they might have some games marked down. Some games may have been sitting around for a while. If you have an overstock on something, you typically will see a sale. But when we remove physical media, you now remove elements that affect supply and demand. So this is actually a larger issue that affects global economics in the gaming industry and could also have ripple effects to other industries as well. And cutting out stores is actually something that they're trying to take action against in Australia. There are some lawsuits going on where they're trying to protect brick and mortar stores by saying that people cutting them out entirely and getting rid of physical media is illegal, which I kind of agree that that is how it should be, but we also know how legal cases work, right? They take time. And by the time we even see any results from that case, it may already be too late. There's also the potential, of course, that the case will not go anywhere and that the stores will still lose out. And then that would be even worse because now we have a precedent for digital media just winning across the board. Ultimately, one of the worst bits of news that I've heard from this was when I was listening to Inside Games talk about it. And they were talking about experts who have been commenting on the rising costs of gaming when it comes to components and various elements of things that we need, right, as gamers. And they've basically said that odds are good that even if the AI bubble pops, these costs will not be coming down, which is really, honestly, depressing for me to hear, because I'm really worried that there's going to be so many people who will just be priced out of gaming entirely. And I think that's really sad. Games are a beautiful way that allow us to connect on a level that no other art form does. And even worse, despite the fact that everybody's losing their minds online about Sony's changes, them speaking about physical media, the unfortunate part is that Sony's stock has never been higher, and the CEOs will never be the ones that are in trouble anyways. For the most part, those are the most secure people. So even though they're the ones making the call to make these changes, it's always going to be our developers, our people that are making our games, that are actually doing the work to create these worlds that we love, that are the reason why we even own things to game on in the first place. Those are the people that lose their jobs. Now, granted, what silver lining can I give you at the end of this video? What could I possibly say to make you feel like there's hope in the world? I think some of the things that I want to leave you with is the positives of the industry right now. I think this is a great time for retro gaming, and I think retro gaming already is a huge market. I think it's going to continue to grow as time goes on, as people return to older consoles that they've preserved, buy up older games to replay, and I think that that is beautiful because there's a lot of new hotness that we're all chasing all the time. But there's some really amazing older games, some of which I've never even played. So hopefully I'll get to go back and do some more retro gaming in the future as well. There is, of course, also freemium games, which Xbox actually made more on Candy Crush and Minecraft than apparently the rest of their entire gaming studios. So those two games alone, which are freemium, beat out everything else. Some people may not agree with me saying Minecraft is freemium, but regardless, those are their two cash cows at Xbox. So those games, if you like them, will probably be safe. And the other side of that, if you're not into Candy Crush or Minecraft, understandably, and you want something maybe that's a little bit different, a little bit more creative and weird and just, unique. There is games out there where you can find all of that. And I would say indie games, we've already seen them growing the last few years. The Game Awards, they cleaned up last year. I think that's going to continue to be a thing. I think we're going to see the decline of AAA and even AA games, and indie games are just going to continue to be on the rise because they're affordable, they're creative, they're fun, and they also don't try to monopolize your time most of the time. And if you're worried about this, understandably so, and you feel we are approaching a critical mass, I would agree with you. I think gaming has gotten so big that it's gotten to the point where it is essentially plateauing. And everyone that is trying to squeeze more and more money out of gamers is going to quickly find out that we have been pushed to the max and there is no money left to have. However, the good news is the last time we saw something this crazy in the gaming industry, it actually caused a great reset. And that allowed us to have more creative games coming out in the future. And it also brought down some of the cost of gaming. So if we can survive this apocalyptic feeling time period, there might be a light at the end of the tunnel, and this may actually cause a really interesting reset for us down the line. And if that doesn't happen, the one thing I'll say is at least we have board games. I don't know if you've noticed in my frame, I own a lot of board games. I've always loved tabletop gaming, and I think this could be the time for people to get more into that. The good thing about a board game is you buy it, you own it, it's physical media, and you can replay it as much as you want, and no one will charge you more. There are expansions, kind of like how we have DLC in video games, but other than that is optional. When you buy something, you just own it for life, as long as you maintain that game. And it's pretty crazy to say, but I've also been thinking of getting more into Warhammer, because right now, honestly, Warhammer feels more affordable than video games. That's how I know that we're in a really bad spot, when War Minis games cost less than video games. Anyways, friends, that's all I have for this one. I'm sorry for the bummer. I've been trying to keep an eye out for something positive, but this is what I got. And it's been really worrying me, so I just needed to come here and share the news with you. Let me know something that you've been playing lately that you've been loving. If there's a little bit of a silver lining you want to add in the comments, please do. If you have concerns, if there are experiences you've had where you've seen that cost come up and it has been devastating to you, also, this is a safe space to share that and, speak to those experiences, because I think we do need to keep talking about it and finding these ways to connect with people so that we can feel seen as we all go through this together, because we're all being put through the ringer, and there are many of us, I'm sure, that are just struggling to pay for roofs over our heads right now. So entertainment cost ballooning really sucks. That's all I have for this one. I'll see you down in the comments, and until next time, friends, stay nerdy. Bye! And if you like hearing me talk about gaming, news, reviews, and all other things, no, I shouldn't say that because that's Young Yaz. And if you like hearing me talk about gaming here on the channel, let me know you like it by clicking this video.